My name is Catherine McNulty, and I am so glad you're here. In this video, we're going to talk about self-evaluation, how you're doing in your grief process, how 2019 went, and how 2020 is going to go for you. Now, one of the things that I do at Grief Inspired is I'm very focused on giving you, first of all, hope that you can get through the grief process, which you absolutely can. And then two, I want to give you skills. Skills and tools and tips and things that you can take action about, things that you can do to resume some of the control that you don't have in this uncontrollable time. That's what Grief Inspired aims to do. And we're going to talk about those during this video. I'll give you a few tips and tricks. So first of all, let's start by looking back on 2019. And if you have a journal, this is a good time to get a journal. If you don't like journaling, that's okay, but it's really a good thing to have one. And I really like the spiral bound ones so that you can actually flip it over and lay it flat when you're writing in it. But again, having a journal, don't get focused on the fact that you have to write every single day. So I did that, and I started in this journal, and I was really trying to make sure that I wrote every single day. And I can't journal like that. But what I do is I always keep a notebook around so that when I have thoughts, when I have ideas, I have a place to put them. So I want to encourage you to do that. If you have time and a pen and paper now, go ahead and get that because I'm going to be asking you some questions today, and it will be helpful if you can write them down. So go ahead and do that, and I'll wait for you here. Great. So questions are, how long have you been grieving? When was your loss? How are you doing? Do you feel like you've progressed in your grief? What has changed for you from the time when you lost your loved one early on, those beginning weeks when everything seems completely out of control and there's a whirlwind of activities and you can't describe what you're feeling, you can't describe what you're thinking, you're crying all the time. Maybe you're numb. There's a lot of numbness that happens early in grief. So I want you to take a minute and think back to shortly after you lost your loved one. And it might be painful to think about it. But again, part of the grief process is actually acknowledging the grief, working through it, and letting some of the feelings come up. So if you think of that time, and if it was in 2019, it's going to be much more fresh, obviously. And if it was earlier than that, acknowledge that too. And now think for a moment, how has your life changed? How have you changed? Have you changed at all? How are things different for you as it relates to your grief, your loss of the person that you've loved? Maybe you've lost more than one person, right? That can complicate matters even further and make it even more difficult. So write those things down and think about over the course of the next week when you have time, and I highly recommend taking time alone, think about what has changed. If you think about those things and you think to yourself, well, nothing really has changed. I'm still just as sad, just as depressed. Maybe I'm a little less angry, maybe I'm more angry, but things are pretty much the same, and I don't feel like anything's getting better. My advice there is to ask yourself, are you stuck? Are you stuck in your grief? That's the place that I really want to help you get through if you are. Because being stuck takes a long time. I was stuck for a full 2 years because I didn't know that there was anything different. And being stuck is really just staying in misery and staying depressed and staying, I was walking through life like a zombie. And sure, you can choose to continue to do that. But that's really putting yourself in a victim type mentality and just sitting there and saying, I'm done. So the question is, are you done? If you're watching this video, that tells me that you're probably not. But it's a good thing to think about, are you stuck in your grief? And if you are, we're going to be talking about some different things to do today. So I have 5 different topics that I want to talk about. So let's dive into those. These are strategies for 2020. And this is when you're starting to look forward. And you may be in a position where, you're not looking forward at all past, getting through the day, or maybe next week, or waiting for, well, I have to go back to work. Whatever that time is. But I want you to think about, what is it that you want? What do you want your life to be like? Now, you can't change the past, so I'm not going to have you say, well, I want to have my loved one be alive. Absolutely. That's a given. It's a given for all of us, but that's not available. So what else do you want? What do you want your life to be like? And then another question is, what do you need? What could you use right now? What would help you to move forward? What would help you to feel a little less heavy on your heart? What would help you feel a little lighter? Right? And it's in the moment, and it's for today, and it's over the next week, and it's over the next year. What's going to help you? Try to define what that is, because if you know what that is, then you can do something about it. The problem is when you're stuck and you don't know what to do. What do you need to learn? One of the things that really helped me on my grief journey was diving into the process. And what I mean by that is, I didn't know what grief was. I didn't know what was going to happen to me. I didn't know what the emotions of grief were. There were new emotions that I was like, I don't know what this is. This has never popped up before, right? I was a brand new mother who had lost a child. The emotions were so overwhelming. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what I was feeling. But what I did was I took time and I started researching. I started reading some books. Now there's so many blogs online. I wanted to know, what is grief? What is it about? And you're doing that now, right? Coming to the videos, you're learning things. So I'm so glad that you're here. Keep going with that, because that's absolutely going to help you. And I try to make these videos so that you're getting what you need. So if there's something that you feel like, this is a burning question, this is something I don't get, I don't understand, why is this happening? Let me know, and I'll create a video specifically for you to address your question. And you can post your question here below, or you can send your question to me in an email at griefinspired@gmail.com. If you want to keep it private, that's fine too. But I can guarantee you that if you have the question and you're thinking about it and it's heavy on your heart, then somebody else is too. And that leads me to the next question is, are you getting the support that you need? Do you have enough support? We all need different levels of support. One of my speaking platforms is to say that for whatever reason, because of the way society is, because of the way our culture treats death, we try to do this on our own. And my advice to you is, don't do it on your own. And if you are doing it on your own, is that enough for you? Or do you need something more? And what does that look like? So moving into strategies, I promised you that I had 5 strategies, so we're going to dive into those. And this is looking forward to 2020. So the first tip that I have for you, and you may want to write this down, is that what you focus on comes into your reality even more. So there's a phrase that's popular that lots of people say, where energy goes, energy grows. Meaning, if you're putting positive energy, positive thoughts out, those are the things that you're going to get back. Now, it's really easy when you're grieving to stay in the negative and to stay, and I'm not saying, rainbows and unicorns. I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about you can spend your grief days thinking about, why did this happen to me? Why is God doing this to me? Why is my life so miserable? Why is this happening? It makes no sense. You can focus on all of the bad things, and I don't have my loved one, and my life is never going to be the same, and I've been cheated and robbed out of all of these things that I was looking forward to. You can focus on what you've lost. Absolutely. And you have every right to do that. So I don't want to tell you not to do that. You have a right to do that. But what I want to encourage you and remind you is that what you focus on grows and comes more into your reality. So if you spend time shifting your questions and saying, what did this person bring into my life? I'm really sad right now because I miss. What is it that you miss about them? And what happens is think into your heart and feel your heart and say, what do I miss about them? I miss the joy of my first pregnancy. I miss the joy of my baby. I miss the joy of being able to lean over and smell his little hair. And I'm never going to get those moments back. But what I am going to remember is all of the time that I had with him. And it was only 6 weeks, but to me that 6 weeks is such a treasure. So again, focus on good things, positive things, the love. And spend less time focusing on the negative. And I think that's going to help you in 2020. You may have heard about visualization. Visualization is big, and it's become mainstream enough that I think people underestimate the value of visualization. And I intend to do some more visualization videos. I'm learning how to do that so that when I create them, they're going to be really useful to you. But what visualization is very basically is just giving your second to close your eyes and thinking into 2020 and asking yourself, what do I want to feel like in 2020? What do I want to see happening? Who are the people I want to have around me? Where am I going? What am I doing? How am I feeling? And when you can close your eyes and tap into that, it's very, very powerful. Because again, what you focus on comes into your reality. So if you can visualize what it is that you want, that's what you will get. So that's number one, what you focus on. Number two, the tip is, I call it observation. And here's the thing. I'm going to put this down because I talk with my hands. With grief, we tend to be very reactive. You may have heard of, there's an analogy. People are either thermometers or they're thermostats. And the thermometer means that whatever's going on in their life, whatever they're feeling, the thermostat goes up and down. Somebody says something to you and the thermostat goes up. Your anxiety level goes up. When somebody says the wrong thing, you go to a party and you're faking trying to be happy. your anxiety level goes up. You become very reactive to what's going on around you. And when you start having negative thoughts, you lock onto them and you hold them tightly and you say to yourself, I think I'm going crazy. I'm never going to get through this. All of that negative stuff, that's being a thermometer. What I want to encourage you to move toward is being a thermostat. How can you be more calm in your emotions? How can you focus on the right things? And how can you be less reactive? And one of the ways that you can do that is really observing your thoughts. So there's this concept around observing your thoughts rather than judging your thoughts. So particularly now when you're grieving, there's a lot of what we call rumination. And rumination is the running over and over again of things in your mind. And you ruminate. And so slowing that down and just taking a minute and observing what's going on. What am I saying to myself? What am I thinking? What am I feeling? Am I really angry today? Am I really just deep, do I feel just deep sadness? Do I feel like I have a hole in my heart? Or do I feel a little bit lighter today? Am I worried because I do feel a little bit better, that I'm worried I'm going to feel horrible again? Do I feel guilty because I'm starting to, there's times when I actually do laugh. And do I feel guilty because I feel like I don't have a right, that somehow by being happy, you're discounting how much you loved your loved one and you're not being fair to them because that means maybe you're forgetting about them, which absolutely isn't the case. But observe what's going on there, and you don't have to judge it. Just write it down. Again, I suggest you to have your journal. Write it down. Take a look at it. And one of the exercises that I talk about a lot is called stream of consciousness writing. This is a tool that you can use at any time. It works most effectively first thing in the morning. But it's basically when your mind is racing, when your thoughts are racing, get them down on paper. Don't judge them, just observe them and just write down what's going on in your head. It's going to help. It's absolutely going to help, because the process of grief, you have to get grief out. There's so much emotion, there's so much feeling, there's so many thoughts. You have to get them out of your head, out of your heart, and down on paper. So that's number 2. We said observation. So far we've talked about on where you focus your time and your energy. And then 2 is observe what's going on with you. And number 3 is, now that you've observed what's going on, do you feel as if you're in control? Or are you in this frantic state where you feel like everything around you is completely out of control? You're only a thermostat, right? You can't control anything that's happening. You can't control your emotions. You can't control your crying. You can't control, I joke with people, I had a lot of anger, right? So I had a lot of outbursts where I would yell at people or just be generally nasty because I didn't know what to do with the emotion. So my question for you is, do you feel in control? Do you feel like you're making progress? Or again, are you stuck? Are the questions that you have about grief and about life and why this happened and what this means for your life, are those questions getting answered? Because you should be able to answer those questions over time. And when there begin to be questions that aren't being answered, then that's a time to seek out some support. And I do a lot of personal development work, and I learn a lot of these tools and skills, and I continue to do it in my own life because it's going to give me more tools to help all of you. There's an exercise that's called Keep, Start, and Stop, and I follow Danelle Delgado, and she's amazing. And I want to be her because she just has this amazing energy, and she knows grief, and she knows loss, and she knows what it means to turn her life around and to go after things that are really important to her. So I follow her and learn as much as I can from her. But she has this exercise that's really, you write down the 3 words, write down keep, start, and stop. What are the 3 things that you need to keep doing? What do you need to start doing? And what do you need to stop doing? So when we talk about what do you need to keep doing, well, what is working? Maybe it's making sure that you have enough alone time. Or maybe it's not being alone, that you do better when somebody's around you. I've had a lot of people say, well, I just don't want to be alone. I need to have people with me. So that would be something then that maybe you need to keep doing. What do you need to start doing? What haven't you done that you've been thinking about doing that you want to do, but you just haven't done it, maybe because you don't feel like you have the energy? If you're thinking that that's going to help you, find a way to start doing that, whatever it is. And maybe it means just asking for help, right? We don't want to ask for help in this society. We don't think that we need help. Why? This makes me completely crazy. Like, why do we think that we have to do this on our own? None of us know how to do this. When it happens to us, no one's educated you. I'm trying to do that now. But when grief happens to us, we don't know how to deal with it. So why are you putting that pressure on yourself? So what do you need to start doing? And then finally, what do you need to stop doing? And that can be just as powerful as what you need to start doing. Maybe you need to stop beating yourself up. Maybe you need to stop destructive behaviors. Are you drinking too much? Are you eating too much? Are you engaging in activities that are harmful to you over the long haul? Are you sacrificing the immediate moment to feel better in the moment and sacrificing longer term? No judgment. It's just an analysis. So what do you need to keep doing? What do you need to start doing? And what do you need to stop doing? So that was number 3. Are you feeling in control? If you're not feeling in control, this is how you get it. This is the tool. If you work the tool, you will have the control that you want. Number 4 is, do you have a mentor? Now, when I'm talking about a mentor, what I mean is, do you know of someone in your life who has had the same type of loss as you? Have they lost their mother or maybe their parents? Have they lost a child? Have they lost a sibling or a spouse? Do you have somebody in your life who can actually be a mentor to you? The person who you can look to and say, okay, that person's further along. Their loss was 2 years before mine. And they seem to be doing pretty good. They're getting better. You need to have that mentor to have that hope so that you can believe that you can get there too. Do you have a mentor? And maybe that mentor is somebody that you really look up to. Maybe it's somebody from a support group. Maybe it's a coach or a therapist or a counselor or a person who has more wisdom than you do. Maybe because they've been on the planet longer. Maybe it's a grandmother, a grandfather. You need to have a mentor. Someone that you can go to whenever you need to say, hey, this is what's going on with me, and I don't know how to handle this. I'm feeling really out of control today. I don't know why, but I continue to sob. Or something happened, I was triggered, and I feel like I'm falling apart. I have a good friend who always says, well, I was doing okay, and then I fell apart. You're not falling apart, you're grieving. So who is that mentor for you? You need somebody to let you know, to remind you that you're not going crazy, that this is normal, that you are okay, that you are going to get through this. If you don't have a mentor, I can be your mentor. If you want me to be your mentor, I'm more than happy to do that. You can just go to my website, griefinspired.com, and tell me, send me an email, I want to be mentored, and I'll help you. Absolutely. And then lastly, so let's review the last 4 before we go into the, so first, what you focus on, to observe your thoughts, observe your feelings, observe how you are. Number 3 is, do you feel in control? Looking at that, are you in control? And number 4 is, do you have a mentor? Who is your mentor? And if you don't have one, I want to encourage you wholeheartedly to find one. Because if you don't do anything else, having a mentor, somebody that you can go to, look up to, will help you through the grief process faster than anything else. And then number 5 is trust in your intuition. Trust your gut. And again, I mentioned Danelle earlier. Danelle says, when in doubt, leave it out. So if you're questioning, I have a lot of people that say to me, should I go to this party? Should I go to this event? Should I go to the wedding? I feel really bad if I don't go. I'll feel horrible. I really don't want to go, but I feel like I should. When in doubt, leave it out. Trust your gut. Ask yourself, what do I need in this moment? And sometimes that can mean, so when I was in sales, people would ask me all the time, because I left for 6 weeks and then came back to work. And so they thought I was just out on maternity leave. They didn't know that I had lost my son. And people would start asking about it. And I didn't know what to say. And I would I used to force myself to stand there and figure out what to say. And I tried saying different things. And the whole thing was uncomfortable for me. It was uncomfortable for other people. And then finally, I just realized it would be better just not to talk about it, right? And so when I was going to somebody that I knew who was a good customer who would likely ask, I had somebody preemptively go and say, okay, here's what happened with Catherine. She lost her baby. She's fine. She's grieving. She's going to heal. But don't talk about it. And then it would just eliminate that whole uncomfortable thing. And so many of us, when we're grieving, we put ourselves in these situations that are so uncomfortable. And we try to just suck it up. And it's just creating more pain for you. So don't do that. Trust your gut. When you feel like you need to leave a situation, leave the situation. When you feel like you really need to say something, then say it. When you have a person in your life, I talk with some mothers who are grieving, and there was one mother who had lost her baby to miscarriage, and then she had another friend who was pregnant, and her friend was like, hey, look, there's motherhood maternity, let's go in there. And the friend was actually, the one who had lost the baby was like, well, I feel like kind of I should go because she's kind of excited, right? But that would be sheer torture for the person who lost her baby. So sometimes you just have to say, you know what? You go. It's going to be too painful for me. I'll stay here and I'll meet you when you're done. Again, trust your intuition. Don't make yourself do things that you don't feel is right for you. Because at the end of the day, this is your life. This is your grief journey. No one cares about you more than you do. And if you feel like that's the case, we can talk about that. Call me. But the reality is everybody thinks of themselves first. Yes, I want to support you. I want to give back. I want to help ease your pain of grief. That's why I do this. But at the same time, the only way For me to be able to do that is for me to trust my gut, trust my intuition, be true to who I am, say what I need to say, even when it's controversial, and take care of me first. And I'll tell you what, it's been a long time coming to feel that way. And that is something that I got out of the grief process. I would have given everything to everyone till I was so depleted that I was just like a puddle of goo on the floor. But now I know not to do that because I'm not helpful to anyone. I'm not helpful to my friends, my colleagues, my son, unless I'm taking care of myself. So I want to encourage you to take care of yourself. I'm so glad that you watched this video. I want to encourage you to watch it again. Watch it whenever you need it. And know that you are going to get through this. There is hope. You're going to be okay. And you need to just go one step at a time. So my name's Catherine. I am grief inspired after a lot of years. And I want you to be grief inspired too. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave me any comments, any feedback that you have, good or bad. I can take it all. I can handle it. And let me know what's going on with you. I'm here to help. Have a great day today.